Wildlife is abundant in the land of 10,000 lakes. Animals of the Minnesotan wilderness, such as the wolf, can thrive in any habitat as long as there is sufficient prey. Creatures targeted are typically weak, old, or in poor health. Every living species contributes to nature's delicate balance, and with a harsh winter ahead, the struggle for survival begins. The human eye can see more shades of green than any other color. Why do you think this is?
Because of predators. Used to be we were monkeys, right? And in the woods, in the jungle, everything's green. So in order to not get eaten by panthers and bears and the like, we had to be able to see them, grass and trees and such.
Predators.
Hopefully there's something different about Malvo than we've seen before. He's not meant to be a classic serial killer. He's not really motivated by money. He's not really motivated by any recognizable human emotions. He likes to get to the core of people. He likes to see if he can take that civilized man and turn him into an animal.
The difficult part of explaining who Lauren Malvo is that you're not supposed to know who he is. And I liked that idea. Like, the backstory's not part of it. But you kind of have a feeling his backstory might be pretty sketchy.
Because he is a man of mystery, our very first image of Malvo is actually coming from behind. We have a shot that pushes over the trunk towards the back of Malvo's head before we reveal his face. We didn't plan it as such, but as we were shooting the pilot, that became one of our favorite ways to photograph Billy Bob in that character, was to start a scene with the focus thrown to the back of his head. The back of the head became the Malvo shot for us.
And cut.
Cut in.
Check that.
Check that.
Clean gate. Now we're doing a big turnaround on this scene.
Turning around.
I read this interesting book as I was breaking this about the birth of the highway system in America and how it introduced a new kind of crime because people could pass through places. There was this sense, this highway crime, serial killing became possible because you could literally move through a place and keep going. And I like that idea that maybe Malvo had been blowing back and forth across this region for 100 years.
I don't think I really based Malvo on anybody. I just did what Noah wrote. I mean, the look and stuff like that I had something to do with,
What we decided to do is do Billy completely dark-headed, to completely change his look. And then we gave him this odd haircut. I thought if we brought his hair right down here, that it would almost be like a film noir thing when they used to put the lighting and you'd only see through here. And then the first time you see the character, you're like, oh my God, what is going on with Billy's hair?
And then I was looking in the mirror and I thought, this is pretty creepy. Because it's so not creepy, you know what I mean? Like, bangs are associated with pop music of the early 70s, certainly not associated with a guy like this. Once you put that look together and then that coat on, it's very iconic looking. It's the kind of thing you don't forget. And we wanted it to be that way.
A lot of this stuff is stuff that was available to us in stores that we have modified. Like the plaid coat, we had purchased that coat and then we heavily altered it and we added the collar and the fur. You're not gonna find that coat in the store. That's what we wanted, a look that was specifically Malvo.
And it's just odd enough, but acceptable within the script. When he walks in, people definitely know he's not from there.
There's a big scene between Malvo and Gus Grimley, but for logistical reasons, we had to shoot Billy on a different day that we shot Colin Hanks.
Unfortunately, it was one of those scenarios where sort of the movie-making gods frowned upon us a little bit. They weren't going to be able to move us to the location, so in order to get Billy's side, they opened up the stage doors to get that cold air in so that we could at least see his breath. And we shot his close-up.
Evening, officer.
Good evening.
And then the following Friday, we shot my side, but Billy Bob wasn't there. So it was a very weird scene for me to watch because I'm technically watching 2 different weeks.
There's only one shot where the 2 guys actually appear at the same time on screen. It was actually over Billy Bob's shoulder as a green screen.
Evening, officer.
Evening. License and registration, please.
And the majority of Colin's coverage is shot on a location because we wanted those big billowing clouds of smoke because it seemed dragon-like and demonic.
The script supervisor, she read the dialogue, but that wasn't quite the same. I mean, I remembered what Billy Bob had done was pretty haunting and pretty jarring.
Maps used to say there'd be dragons here. Now they don't.
And so I just replayed it in my head, and it's a good lesson as an actor. You have to learn to react to pretty much any tennis ball or, you know, tape mark that you can, yeah.
Bill, could you just pick up the last line and maybe have you look at him as it goes up? Would that be all right?
Look at him
As the window crosses.
Malvo doesn't like weakness, and when he spots it, it causes him to not respect the person. But at the same time, in his odd way, he wants to kind of help him out, you know, put him on the trail. I think he enjoys that whole idea of giving, you know, you can either do this or you can do that. Which one would you like to do? But just so you know, I think you know the consequences if you take this one. That's scary. I'm going to roll my window up, and then I'm going to drive away. And you're going to go home to your daughter. And every few years, you're going to look at her face and know that you're alive because you chose not to go down a certain road on a certain night. And so when Melville looks at someone and says, here's the deal, they believe that. It doesn't matter that he weighs 135 pounds.
You know, you see the opening of 2 and it's just drums and you're like, what's that? And that's the feeling that I think Noah really wanted to get. So to open the show with 2 brand new characters and an entirely new musical theme, which is completely outside of the scope of our musical vernacular, was really jarring.
Things are a bit unclear as to who we're working for, just that we're part of this crime syndicate in Fargo. You know, I don't even have a name. I mean, I have a name in the script, so those of us involved in the production know who I am, but I don't think I'm ever referred to or anything by name. I don't think Russell's character is either.
There's no library in this town. Why is there no library in this town?
I have a house in Austin, Texas, that's very close to this giant school for the deaf. And it struck me walking around one day, it's such a visual thing, very cinematic, that your language is movement. And it's a great way to communicate for 2 people who want to have private conversations.
Now, Catherine McKinnon, she's our ASL manager. We've been working together in tandem with Adam. Now, the first day when he arrived, we had to really start exposing him to signs, doing a little bit of a brush up on everyday signs that you would use on a day-to-day basis. And so then from Adam's perspective, he has a bit of a quirkiness when it comes to his style of production or articulation in the sign, which brings a little more flavor to the film.
He and this coach, Catherine, you know, I mean, without them, I wouldn't be able to do it at all, and Russell's been incredibly helpful with that sort of thing. It created some bonding really early on because we really have to kind of connect in order to communicate, but, you know, he can hear with his hearing aid, and he can read lips really well. He's much better at that than I am at sign language, so if anything, I have a tougher time in the scenes than he does in life.
As we shot those scenes, it felt to me like we shouldn't translate for the audience what they're saying because it's alienating and you want to know what they're saying, but you don't know what they're saying, which is exactly how the characters around them feel. And it wasn't until episode 4, when it's a scene just between the 2 of them, that we actually translate what they said.
Adam is starting to recognize and learn some of the specialized hand shapes, specialized hand movements, and also locations that are very particular to American Sign Language. Like, for an example, Mormon, okay? And then there's a sign for prostitute, which is done a little differently, as you can see, by just a slight hand shape movement. But then Adam will say, well, why are they so similar? And I'll say, you know what? That point, don't even go there. I can't explain it, but we just know it's different.
Leave it up, rummies. There's something fun about walking into a scene and knowing that you're in complete control. As it goes on, I've been playing with different ways of intimidating people, and sometimes it seems more intensely serious, and other times it's fun to sort of play it a little bit more lighthearted, because whatever you do, they're terrified.
Dialogue-wise, when did Russell get up?
Everyone sorry?
Okay.
Okay, and action.
I'm sorry, I just sell insurance. I can't.
No, Malvo!
that's the first time and really only time you see Malvo actually vulnerable. All of a sudden, he's caught in a trap.
Smell up. And action.
But the great thing about it is, and Noah wanted it this way, and I asked him about it too, because I was hoping this was the answer, is that Malvo is vulnerable, but just for a few seconds. And almost instantly, he goes, oh, okay, here's what I'll do. It also seems a little supernatural. That's pretty wild. I'm sure that's going to be a crazy scene. You know, honestly, I've liked scenes. Sometimes it's the ones that aren't the big scenes, you know? Like at one point, I go to buy a police scanner from a guy who sells stuff out of his van. There are a lot of those little connecting scenes that normally you wouldn't think of as a scene to get in there and chew up, but I like those kind of scenes. Malvo can just go buy the scanner and leave, but instead, he engages the guy.
Got this one in pink.
Do I look like I want a pink police scanner?
I don't know. Could be a gift for a lady.
And in your experience, police scanners, is that a gift ladies get wet for? He also likes to toy with people. That's his only recreation. He doesn't exactly have what you call a social life. So his social life is, you know, to put it bluntly, fucking with people.
Hey, maybe you could make a friend and give it to him.
Maybe I could give it to you. Call you up late at night. You can listen to me shit on people.
We play that wolf throughout the series. Malvo is the wolf. I have favorite parts of all of the sets. It'd be hard to pin one down, but the cabin I've been a big fan of. The cabin that Malvo has occupied is not his cabin. What happened to the occupants? Well, it's Malvo, so that gives you something to consider. But we played the cabin as once belonging to a taxidermist. So there are examples of taxidermy all throughout. And if you pay attention, you'll see that all of the animals, except for one, are smaller prey animals. And there's one larger animal, there's a wolf's head on the top of the fireplace peering at the prey, and that's exactly who Malvo is.
That last scene, because Billy Bob was so close and the camera operators were so close.
You riddle. Shades of green, I figured it out.
They were just gonna have CG in a spark coming out of the gun. And I remember going out and said, that's a bummer that we're gonna do it like that. I just felt at that moment we should try and do it as practical as we could because it's such an important scene. And I wanted to react to the sounds. I wanted to be able to smell the gunpowder, so to speak. And I thought it would look good too because, you know, you get a little smoke coming out of that gun. You know, can't really replicate that for cheap. And next thing I know, I'm being handed a weapon filled with a blank, and Billy Bob has an earpiece in, and he's already worked out what he's gonna do, and he, you know, without even telling me, had gone through all this trouble and lengths to be able to make sure that we could get a firearm that actually fired something. That's the kind of guy Billy Bob is. He's very supportive. He's the kind of guy you always want to be working with.
There's a simple morality in Coen Brothers movies. If you transgress, you will be punished. So there is that dynamic running through this as well, which is, you know, Lester kills his wife, and there are consequences. Wrench numbers come to town. But Malvo also killed Sam Hess, and the past is gonna catch up with him, just as Gus catches up with him.
But that sort of sacrifices everything that Gus is. Gus is not a violent guy, and I feel like he loses a sense of innocence. He loses a part of himself when he does that.
You know, who really wins in the end, right? If Malvo's overarching goal is to see, can he turn civilized people into uncivilized people? He certainly does with Gus. Gus is now something he never wanted to be, and that is a victory for Malvo.
I watched a bear once. His leg was in a steel trap. It chewed through bloody bone to get free. And died about an hour later, face down in a stream. It was on his own terms, you know?